So the people moved out not long, very quick, relatively quickly after the northern border. And remember that the northern border communities, in all the other wars, they did not evacuate their homes. This was the first. And it was because of the very realistic, rooted in reality concern that the Hezbollah terrorists would duplicate out of Lebanon what the Hamas terrorists did out of Gaza, okay? And you're like, Carl, are you gonna get to the Bible at all today? You'll see, you're here, so it's too late for you. But but so the northern communities evacuated, and these people, literally two of which we have here, have moved out of their homes and have not really used or enjoyed. Is there anybody else here that's not utilized or enjoyed your home for the past 15 months? Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. You have a home. You just haven't really enjoyed it, right? So, but anyway, so Z-Hope is going to return on, we're going to leave February 1st. Chris and I and Del Dillon and Buddy and Natalie, of course, Buddy and Natalie are going to get to go to their homes. They're going to move into their own home starting February 1st or 2nd. They're, what? So, but they have two daughters that they love like crazy, college-age girls, and and they've mostly been in Israel for the past 15 months because of college and stuff. They've, but anyway, Buddy and Natalie, Buddy's parents also live on the kibbutz, and they've been mostly away from the kibbutz. Well, I think just about the whole time, right? Pretty much the whole time. And they're our friends, but they had to leave their home. And many Israelis, when they left the kibbutz, they left fridges and freezers full of food and homes, largely just kind of with whatever was around. But what we're going to do is we're going to assess the situation. We have our own apartment, and we. It's funny. I don't know if you remember the story, but like a week or so before the war started, we were all in IKEA in Haifa, and we were so excited because we had money to buy like some decent furniture for the apartment. You remember, Pete, the glory of the apartment, and then the war started, and then IKEA was like, we can't deliver your stuff because of the war. And then Buddy had to call IKEA and say, well, just hold on to our stuff. So it's a one-bedroom apartment with a safe room that's under construction, that's nowhere near completion. And please pray, because we're asking God to provide financially so that Z-Hope can afford an actual two-bedroom apartment there on the kibbutz. And we're not talking about anything fancy. We're talking about old kibbutz, 50s or 60s, maybe 70s construction. And we're asking God that He would provide for that upgrade. We're also going to be asking God, letting you know that we're asking God. So when we're praying, and then the Lord puts something on your heart, it's because we're praying. We're going to need a brand new pole saw, like a gas-operated chainsaw on a stick. And you can't donate one. We can't bring a still, because for those of you guys that know about chainsaws, is that still fires everything up before they leave the factory, right? But Husqvarna, you chainsaw or groundskeeping or whatever people, Husqvarna does not fire up their stuff at all. And you can't bring something on the airplane if it's ever had any gas or oil in it. So the only option is a brand new Husqvarna. You can't bring yours, right? Because of airplanes. And I've been at the counter with a brand new Husqvarna chainsaw, and the lady's like, you can't take this. And I'm like, yes, I can. And she's like, no, you can't. And I'm like, yes, I can. And we're just kind of doing this, Sarah behind the tent door thing. And uh, uh, and it finally got there. It showed up several days late. But then we put it in the tool shed on the back of our prayer building, the tool shed that we used it a few times, and then the war started. So anyway, we have a good chainsaw there, but we need a pole saw because we're cutting over this cliff a lot. And anyway, there's these needs. There's things that I ask that you would pray for. We need finances. We depend on the daily leading of the Holy Spirit regarding projects and who to work with and what to do and what to prioritize and who to talk to. And in that leaning, in that daily asking God for wisdom and asking him for direction, he's there. He meets us and he speaks and he guides and he shows us, mostly, sometimes, anyway. But it's a joke. Okay. But seriously, we experience that leading of the Lord, and it's great. And if I don't experience it, then they experience it. And if they experience it, then wait. Okay, well, they definitely experience it. But anyway, we ask that you would pray for all these things. And what we're going to do is we're going to be assessing all the conditions of the kibbutz, our own apartment, and then all of the stuff. You've seen the videos of the mitzport and the destruction. If you haven't signed up for the Z-Hope Telegram newsfeed, please do. If you're not subscribed to the Zechariah's Hope YouTube channel, please do. And of course, we just put out another newsletter recently, and there's all that stuff. And if you ever signed up to own your own olive tree in Israel, you want to make sure that you already paid for it, because we're going to need that money to give to the farmers on this trip. Okay, so we have to give all this money to the farmers that came in for the trees. So please pray that God would bless that and provide for that. So, all right, that's the first pre-teaching. I think you've heard about the pre-teachings before the teachings. I'm thinking about bumping it up to do like a couple pre-teachings before the teaching. But recently, back to America, back to here and now. Recently, you've heard that the president-elect, what's that guy's name? Warned Hamas that the wicked terror organization, not the valid political organization, does not exist. Okay, but the wicked terror organization in Gaza, that the hostages and the hostage bodies, because that's what they do. They could kill somebody and take their body hostage, okay, as crazy and non-Sunday morning church material as that may seem, right? But he has warned them that if the hostages and hostage bodies, they better be returned by inauguration day, or in his words, all hell will break loose on the that speaks of several things. That dynamic, that super simple declaration speaks of several things that I want to point out to you today that applies to this next phase of Bible prophecy that we're going to be walking through. Number one, it speaks for it doesn't address politically policy. It doesn't say that, but it goes more foundational to that. It speaks of an absolute support for the nation of Israel. I mean, so it doesn't talk about in these political, these political person terminology. It demonstrates an absolute support for the nation. And I would emphasize this thing about the nation because there are some New Testament believers, churchgoers, Christians that they want to separate the Jews of Bible prophecy, the Israeli people or the Jewish people of Bible prophecy with the nation of Israel. And somehow they come up with a political repudiation of the nation of Israel, but somehow talk out of the other corner, the other side of their mouth, and speak of a Christian support for God's chosen people, the Jews. And that's just not cool. Okay, that's not from the Lord. Okay, it's saying, well, I believe that the Jews are God's chosen people and that He's got a plan for them, but I have a problem with us sending financial support to the nation of Israel. That plays a little trick on our egotistical minds. It appeals to our ego and our intellect, but it is not true. It's not accurate. Okay. So if you're against the nation of it, like there are some Christian groups, I think there was this one called Christ at the Checkpoint. Well, I know there was, but I was dealing with it years ago when I was the director at the Bible College in Jerusalem, when you had these really good Christian organizations that were somehow standing up for the Palestinian people in the name of quote-unquote social justice and standing against the cruel Israeli soldiers who were making life hard for them and all that kind of stuff. Oh, but we love Israel. We see God's place in don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Okay, so number one, that speaks to a very clear, a very simple support for the nation of Israel. But number two, it's an approach. It's not just a simple declaration of support, but it's a new approach to that issue, and it's new in its clarity and demonstration of force. Demonstration of force. All these other political leaders that have come and gone, whether it be Bushes or Obamas or whoever, the Bidens or Clintons or whoever, all these people that we've watched over the past, 10, 15, 20 years, they really are masters at political doublespeak. And we have been tossed back and forth about who we support and what party is ours and all that kind of stuff. But really, they've taken the world and America pretty much in the same direction. And as theocrats, we're looking to Jesus, our God, ruling and reigning from His capital city of Jerusalem. He's got my vote. But this recent declaration, it's an approach that is new in its clarity and demonstration. It's not diplomatic doublespeak. In other words, we love Israel. We stand with Israel and its right to protect itself, right? Every political leader will say that because of their constituency. But then they'll also send money to train, quote unquote, Palestinian policemen and arm them, okay? I don't know if you remember during the George Bush administration was I think it might have been Ehud Barak. I can't remember who the prime minister or the president of Israel, prime minister at the time of Israel was. But around 2005, Israel, was it Ehud Barak? No. What was that other guy? What? No, you're wrong. No. No. I'm just kidding. Maybe you know. So, but they evacuated, they forced the Jews out of their homes from the Gaza Strip. The Palestinian people tore it apart. And then they tore apart all of the infrastructure and all of the industry that the industrious Israelis left, giving it to the quote-unquote Palestinian people. And literally the Palestinians tore it apart with their hands because it was made by Jews. Okay? And then George Bush were like, democracy is coming, democracy is flourishing. Remember you hear all this stuff about what they're doing and what that other group and what that other politician is, what they're saying, what they're doing is they're destroying democracy. Understand that our founding fathers established a constitutional republic. We are not a democracy, okay? Okay, but the point is, a democracy, what happens is by popular vote, tyrants are easily elected because they're so popular. It's democracy. I think the name of the Nazi party was the Democratic Socialist Party, right? something like that, the Nazis back in Hitler's day. But democracy, you know, by popular vote, you elect the one and you could easily elect by popular vote. That's democracy. The majority wins. You know, we've elected a real bad, you know, a bad tyrant or something. But a constitutional republic, and that's how we get the Electoral College. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And the founding fathers were smart guys, right? And they thought all this stuff. They studied all of the histories of political forms throughout history, and these were astounding intellectual guys. But they came up with this thing called a constitutional republic, and so we're not a democracy. But so whenever you hear somebody saying democracy's at stake, they're destroying democracy, that is a signal to you that really they don't give a hoot. Thank you, Lord, for inspiring me with that very gentle word. Well, a hoot about quote unquote democratic values and stuff. Because I think it was George Bush, you know, when the Palestinian people were voting in the Gaza Strip, remember they dipped their fingers in ink and they were all waving their fingers around. Oh, I voted. And then politicians in America were like, democracy, democracy. And they elected Hamas. And Hamas has never left power. They've never been voted out. And what Hamas did is they executed all of their political rivals, all the proponents and all the people that were in the quote unquote the Fatah party. The Fatah party is the Palestinian Authority in the quote unquote West Bank, right? But they executed them. They threw them off buildings. They shot them. Okay, just without any concern for how it would be perceived by the rest of the world. And since that time, there might have been elections held, but they were always a foregone conclusion, and it was always Hamas, Hamas, Hamas. Okay, so when the president-elect says, you know, that those bodies and those hostages need to be returned, it's new in its clarity, in simplicity, and with a bold declaration of force that I think the rest of the world believes will be backed up. But there are many examples how there's been all of this doublespeak. And so, number 3, if this happens, and that means there can and probably will, if there is this new level of simple, robust commitment and enforcement, then that will be a new and different type of peace. Unlike all the other, machinations and monetizations and demonetize and sanctioning and all this other stuff, it will represent a new and different type of peace in the region based upon the radical demonstration of strength. A very different demonstration of faith instead of trying to be everybody's friends, okay? But a demonstration of strength and a clarity of doctrine, and that's totally different because the other people groups around Israel, they feast on weakness. They feast on mixed messages from whether the European Union, joke politically, the Hague, joke, United Nations shouldn't be elevated to the level of joke, but then with Congress in the United States and all of the political people on all across the spectrum of politics, mixed messaging is a buffet of weakness for the people groups in and around Israel that hate Israel. Okay? Are you with me? I think I love this church, man. This is my favorite church. It really is.